I'm Chris Nee, and I'm the creator and executive producer of We the People, which is 10 animated shorts with music about civics that's going to be airing on Netflix. We are so excited to have some special guests with us today. Peter Ramsey, the incredible director of Into the Spider-Verse, Her, the extraordinary musician and activist. She needs no introduction. And of course, my fellow executive producers, the President and Mrs. Obama.
Listen, it is so good to see all of you. And Michelle and I just wanted to say thank you. We had a chance to watch all the cuts. When we started Higher Ground, our purpose was to help tell stories that would connect people, help people see each other better and understand each other better, to inspire people, to inform people. And one of the things that I've always said is that, as important as the office of president is, or mayor or governor, the most important office in a democracy is citizen. And, at a time when I think we got so many arguments and the void a lot of times is filled with people shouting and hollering and not necessarily knowing what they're talking about. For us, the idea of having a project that would, in an entertaining way, help deliver a message about how government works, how we can be involved, how we can help shape key decisions that have an impact on people's lives, whether it's climate change or, making sure that we're doing something about poverty or homelessness or mass incarceration or what have you, to be able to reach folks who might not otherwise be opening a civics book and prompt their interest, that was hugely important. And so for us to then see this amazing collection of artists and animators and filmmakers, led by Chris, just our field marshal, in this battle. We could not be more appreciative and more excited about it. And it turned out even better than we expected.
Me too.
And so, to all our friends, to Janelle and Lin-Manuel and Brandy and Andrea and Brittany, Amanda, and of course, Her, who, you should know that she probably tops the charts in the Obama household, doesn't she?
Yes. What? That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, between,
so
there's some things Sasha listens to, some things I listen to, some things Michelle or Malia listen to, but we all converge around her tracks. Am I wrong?
Wow. You are not wrong.
At the dinner table, we got that working, the summer vibe. That's what we got on. So,
oh man.
so we were excited about that. And then to all the amazing artists. So you guys did just remarkable visual work. And I couldn't be more thankful for that. So you guys have made something we're really proud of.
Yeah, this is really a cool project. And I know it couldn't have been easy to coordinate with all this talent, getting everybody to agree and to sign off and to relinquish probably a lot of control to make this a unified effort. So congratulations to you all. Like Barack said, when we, got into Higher Ground, these were the kind of projects that we envisioned, things that would impact young people in a fun and cool way. And to have you all, the coolest of them in your areas, being a part of it is really setting the tone. So I'm excited. I remember my Schoolhouse Rock days, much of knowing how to multiply and understanding, how a bill becomes a law. Those songs still play in my head, and I draw them up now even as an adult. And at a time when civics education is not guaranteed as a part of the curriculum, and when Barack and I go out into communities, we're always amazed and a little disappointed at how little people know about how their government works and how things really matter. And it's hard to get people to engage in something that they don't know is important. So you guys are doing critical work, especially at a time when our rights, our democracy is under siege. Citizens, particularly our young people, have to understand how this stuff works, and what better way to do it than through music and spoken word and animation. So kudos to you all. This is going to be a great, great addition to this country. So thank you.
Thank you. And if there is one thing that you wanted kids to take away from this, young adults, from this project, what would that be?
Look, I think that our goal throughout our work in the White House and post-presidency is just to get people to understand this is your government. Government's not something else. If it's working right, then it's by, for, of the people. And what that means then is that if we can get people knowledgeable and we can get people interested, you don't have to know every detail of every bill that's going on in Washington. A lot of times it's just noise and chatter and chirping. But for you to know the basics so that, oh, a budget's being shaped. And so it makes a difference whether we spend a certain amount of money on schools or on prisons. And that somebody's making that decision. And that somebody's voting for that person, which means that you can potentially have influence on them. Just having that amount of awareness, which means that people will participate, ask questions, hold folks accountable. And look, I always say when I talk to young people, it's not as if when I was in high school, I was reading the New York Times every day or watching 60 Minutes. Young people got a lot of stuff they're trying to figure out. And they're mainly, well, I won't say what they're thinking about, but it's not that. But, in the same way, maybe we all have this experience of, your parents tell you something and maybe you don't listen, but then it's kind of planted there in the back of your mind. And then later on, it sparks an interest or it gives you an orientation. I think the same is true when it comes to citizenship and participation. It may not kick in right away when you're 16 or even 18 or even 20. But if you've got a little bit of background, a little bit of sense of how things are supposed to work, then suddenly when you've got a job, you see somebody took taxes out of your paycheck, you see something in your neighborhood going on that's not right, and suddenly you say, hey, this is how government's supposed to work. I remember because of that song that her was singing that I had on my playlist. So that's what we're hoping for, right? Is just to kind of create a culture where folks are reminded that you can have an impact because ultimately the government's supposed to belong to you.
Well, you obviously believe the same thing I do, that songwriting is a superpower. And one of the biggest gifts we got is having the top people in this business use their superpower to talk about civics. I wonder, what brought you to this project? What were you excited about talking about?
Well, what made me the most excited was something that I already do in my own music. And it's kind of this responsibility to make people feel something, right? Make people feel something and teach people at the same time. To me, music, it makes you learn. It makes you want to fall in love. It can make you sad. It makes you want to dance. It does all these things. And my favorite thing to say is you get out what you put in. So you're listening to this music, you're taking in these lyrics, and like Mr. President said, it's there and you don't even realize it. And later on in life, you apply it and you don't even notice. You don't even realize. And I think that's how music is so powerful, because you're going to listen to it anyways. We can't live without music, and it's a language that everybody speaks. So it has the ability to unite people. It has the ability to remind us of things that we may already know, but it just kind of sets it in stone. And I think what made me excited was the fact that I get to talk about something I wouldn't normally talk about in my own personal music, and it's making a difference. And I know it's going to be in the classrooms. It's going to be in the homes of people, and they're learning through music. music, through something that I already love to do, through something that I feel a responsibility to do already. So that makes me excited.
Can I ask, just in terms of process, maybe this is a secret, but I'm always interested in how musicians or creative folks work. Did you start off with the beat and sort of the groove and the melody, and then sort of work the lyrics off of that? How collaborative was it? And then at some point, obviously, we had this amazing animation, so we want to hear about that process as well.
Yeah, absolutely. With this song, it was definitely about the bed of music first. It was definitely about like, okay, I want to make something that feels upbeat. Like the idea was, okay, being an active citizen, you want to get up and do something. You want to know that you have the power to do something. So how musically can we drive people to feel that? So we started with the music, and I was like, okay, I think I want it to be like a mid-tempo, like you're kind of moving to it, but it also has just a little groove to it. And it was very collaborative. I was working with some of my favorite producers and writers. And we kind of all just started to think about all those themes, like, okay, what is the general idea that takes it away from the title of like active citizenship? It's change, because being an active citizen means change. And that's something we all can relate to. We all want to see a change in our own lives and in the world around us. So that's kind of how that happened. And then I started singing that, wrote a letter to the mayor, can you hear me out? Want to talk on other, and that's how it came to be. It was like one thing into the other. It was a feeling.
Yeah.
I felt it.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Peter, what about you? How was your process? I'd love to hear how you think these things through as well.
It literally, it was a feeling. I mean, I picked up that same feeling. The all the imagery in the song grew out of the lyrics that Her already had there. The letter to the mayor, the city council, planting trees, recycle. I mean, all that stuff sort of organically became, oh yeah, well let's see that. And just the chorus, if I'm just one person, will my voice even stand out? That became the story. That question really drove, like, yeah, let's see the journey this girl goes on just by deciding that she's going to be the one to speak up and inspire everybody else. So that was the whole flow from her alone to her, like, with huge crowds of people by the end. That was the idea of even the way we used color in the spot was let's be cold and gray and blue and isolated, and by the end it's going to turn into a celebration. It's going to be a festival. So everything literally came from the song. It was all there.
Well, the two things came together beautifully, and
Thank you.
So we could not have been more excited. This kicked things off, and then obviously the other episodes follow, and you couldn't have a more inspiring entry point into the series that you guys put together.
Yeah.
So way to go.
And I also love that each of the topics, that we tackle diversity in such an important way, that we see everyone in each of these. I mean, I really feel like we see the depth and breadth of what America is supposed to be, what it is and what it's supposed to be. And I want to congratulate you all, especially Chris, because I know you've been at the lead. And I'm curious as to how were you very literal in thinking about that in this project?
Yes, and it is a classic example of what's on screen is there because we were so conscious about how we were creating the 10 directors. So the 10 directors and the 10 musical artists represented We the People, and we're an extraordinary mix of all of these different viewpoints and incredible diversity behind the screen, including, as I'm sure you know, 2 20-year-old young female animators of color who we knew were incredibly talented, and we gave them the same job as Peter, who directed Into the Spider-Verse, and just said, we're going to support you and we're going to jump you up a couple steps. And when you see their pieces, they're incredible. But when you put the right people behind the camera, you get a different view in front of the camera.
Well, we appreciate that.
That
looks
means
like
the world.
It looks like we're joined by
got some
some
people.
outstanding young citizens here.
We're getting some we in the we the people.
We're so excited to welcome 5 incredible Scholastic Kid reporters who are going to come ask the president and the first lady some questions.
Hi, I'm Kimmy Cortez. I'm 14 years old and I live in Marietta, Georgia.
Hi, I'm Camille Fullen. I'm 13 years old and I live in Washington, D.C.
Hi, my name is Teresa Fang. I'm 14 years old and I live in Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Hi, my name is Luke Lamore. I'm 11 years old and I live in Woodbridge, Connecticut.
Hello, my name is Shane Mukasa. I'm 13 years old and I live in Attleboro, Massachusetts.
Well, it is very nice to meet all of you, and but very clear presentations there. I'm impressed already.
I know.
So, do you guys have questions for us? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So, President Obama, what kinds of conversations do you hope that we the people will spark among kids?
Well, you know, Michelle was mentioning there was a show when we were kids called Schoolhouse Rock.
Long time ago.
And it actually covered a bunch of different stuff. They had like a little math stuff and
A little what stuff?
math.
Math.
Yeah,
Okay.
you
I just
did
want
some
you to
math.
clearly say that.
And
Grammar,
grammar.
conjunction, junction, what's your function, hooking up words. Right. See,
They don't want to hear all of
okay,
it.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Sorry. Going back.
But one of the things was, one of the famous ones was about how a bill gets passed. And it was called I Am a Bill. And
Yeah, don't you start singing. You
Well,
told me not to.
you're right. Good point. But I still remember it, just like Michelle remembers it. And, you know, part of what we figured out is that, and we saw this in our own daughters, somehow our daughters, they can remember 100 lyrics at a time to 100 songs. But can't always remember, you know, what they just read. And so it tells you the power of music and visuals in terms of planting information in people's heads. And what we are hoping for is that you guys, when you see these animated short films with music to them and you know, these amazing visuals, that it's a great way to learn about how our government works and the fact that ultimately you guys are the ones who are going to determine how the government works, because we live in a democracy, and the way that's democracy is supposed to operate, it means that each of us have a vote, each of us have a chance to decide who's going to represent us as a mayor or as a governor or as a member of Congress or as a president. And each of us have the right to run for those offices. So maybe one of you guys at some point decide you're going to get involved and decide that, you know, you want to represent people and, you know, help shape the direction of our country. So, you know, the main thing is I just want these films to communicate to you guys how important you are, how important your voice is, and how much power you have if you just get out there and get involved and be confident that you know, you have as much right and responsibility as anybody else to help make this country what it should be and to solve problems that you see all around you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So hello, Mr. President, and hello, Mrs. Obama. There's a lot of great music by phenomenal artists in We the People. So how does the music in We the People help kids remember and learn?
And there's a lot of animation on TV these days. So how will We the People's animation be more unique and more memorable for kids?
Well, you know, the wonderful questions. You know, I think as the president said, you know, music has a way of seeping into our souls. You know, a lot of what I remember is because it comes in the form of music. So I think getting great artists like her, on board that are popular, and creative. She is an amazing songwriter in her own right. That would attract you guys because you're like, hey, that's a cool beat, or it sounds like something familiar to me. And so we're hoping that that helps you remember the messages, that it sticks with you, just like the Schoolhouse Rock programs that the president just talked about that we remember growing up. We want you to know why do you get taxed? Why are taxes important? What does it mean when people talk about immigration reform in this country? What are the different branches of government and why are they important? You'll remember it better because of song, because of animation, because of the colors and the stories that are told, because of people like Peter who have created these visuals that just stick with you and allow you to dream. But I want both her and Peter to take a stab at those questions too, just so that they give you guys a sense of how they thought about creating these short films and why they think music and animation is important for learning, especially for young people. Or what do you think? What can you tell these smart young people?
Well, I want to start with a question. I mean, do you guys like music?
I love music.
Yeah, see, I think everybody loves music. You love music too? So I think everybody loves music, and I know everybody also loves animation, but music is something I personally love to create. And I think I've noticed even in my own personal music, how much it's affected people, how much it's impacted people, or at my shows when they're singing along, it's like they get this feeling when they sing along. So I think with an educational message in the music that I already create, you have a great combo. You have learning in music, and sometimes it's more fun than reading a textbook, or it's more memorable than reading a textbook or reading anything else. So when you listen to music, it should be fun, and it should be something that sticks with you, that makes you feel good. And I think this does that.
It's about feeling something. You can give a person information and just tell them a bunch of facts, but it's so much more, it sticks with them so much more if there's a feeling to go along with it. And music, animation, those are two mediums that really deliver emotion and feeling. I mean, when you go to see a good animated movie, you're laughing, you're crying, it goes straight to your heart. The same with good music. So it's kind of like the difference between reading a recipe and then eating the piece of cake. You know what I mean? You can have the facts, or you can have the actual experience of feeling the thing that we're talking about. So that's what we're trying to do, make it a feeling.
President Obama, this is also a two-part question. How did you feel when you voted for the first time?
And how did you feel when your daughters, Sasha and Malia, voted for the first time?
Well, I felt good about voting the first time, even though, as I remember, the candidate who I voted for actually lost, because I'm kind of old, and so this was back in 1980 would be the first time I voted, and I still remember, going to that voting booth and really feeling like, okay, what I'm doing here makes a difference. It's important. It'll determine a lot of stuff, and that's part of what you guys are already way smarter than I was at your age. But as you get older, sometimes people think you grow up just because you get taller or your voice gets deeper, or you're older in years. But the truth is, for me at least, being an adult means you become more responsible and you become more aware, and you start trying to figure out, all right, how can I have an impact and have an influence? And voting to me was part of that process of me really growing up and saying, I can't just leave it to somebody else to solve problems, or not care or worry about what's going on. I've got to, have some responsibility, and that's what voting felt like. And So when Malia and Sasha first voted, we were pretty excited about just seeing how seriously they took the process. They were doing their research and asking questions, and they were nagging their friends to make sure their friends were voting, and that made us pretty proud just to see that they had become these responsible, thoughtful, kind young women, who took citizenship seriously. And I was really proud of them. Did you feel the same way?
Same way. I remember because when Sasha voted, it was this past president, and she was very nervous about making sure her ballot was perfect. So she was sitting at the kitchen table and she was like, look, just give me space. I want to make sure I don't mess this up.
Right, because she was voting absentee.
Yeah, she was voting absentee. So she had the ballot in the kitchen table and she had her, information right beside her. So this her first election was this past, was the last presidency. So she felt very responsible for making sure that her voice was heard. So felt good. And I can't wait for all of you to be in that role in a few years now. And the fact that you're on this call in your amazing red shirts and your serious questions means that you are getting yourself ready to be accountable for the community and for the country that you're going to live in. So we are proud of you all.
Wow, it's been such an honor to be part of this and to be part of this discussion today.
Well, I'm super excited to watch it on Netflix. Thanks, guys.
Well, we're so excited that you guys got to see a little behind the scenes. I am so grateful for all of the people who gave their talents, their energy, and their commitment to change to this project. Please make sure you watch We the People on Netflix. We cannot wait to share it with you.
You guys were terrific. To her and to Peter, thank you for everything you've done. We can't wait to see you guys in person at some point. In the meantime, just know we are listening to your music. We're watching your stuff. You've got huge fans in the household.
Yeah.
Chris, thank you for everything that you've done.
We couldn't do this without your leadership and your vision. So we love you. We love you all.
Thank you for using your power to help bring this to the screen. We're really excited to be activating our young citizens.
Congratulations, guys.
Thanks so much.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.